Don't care if you don't like it. Do. Rock the Kirblog. Rock the Kirblog. Today's subject comes from Dia333333. You advise that people should know themselves when preparing their stories. For that I have to ask, what if you don't know yourself? For the last few years, I was doing some on and off soul searching, and I still question who I am. Sometimes I don't know what kind of person I am, or that I act completely differently from how I try to present myself, or even how I'm actually trying to act. This probably sounds odd since you're you. How do you not know yourself? But it's the kind of thing I go through. In short, if you don't think that you know yourself enough, how do you learn about yourself? This is probably one of the deepest questions I've ever received on this excuse for a show. I guess to start off with, the first time I ever really, myself personally, that I ever really thought about this sort of thing in the first place was I was listening to a podcast interview with the lovely and talented Charlie Adler, who's an incredibly accomplished voice director and actor. And he was talking about when he first moved to California from New York, funnily enough, as with myself, and how he basically had to find a comfortable sense of oneself, of reaching a point of like really knowing himself so that, you know, he could do his job to the best of his ability and know his own limitations and etc. And I remember when I first heard that, I don't think I remember I found it very profound, but I didn't immediately understand what it meant, to be honest. But I remember it really stuck with me for a while, and I think that was like early college, might have even been like late high school for all I remember. But yeah, that stuck with me for a while, and I really tried to sit down and analyze that. And when I went through college, I mean, you know, when you're a kid, you have your drama, you have your your usual mumbo jumbo or whatever, you know, all your typical kind of life experiences, you know, that you need. But college, you know, around that, like I was past teenage years. I was kind of on the cusp of adulthood, more or less. I was really finding out more and more about myself as a person through trial and error, if anything. I've talked about a lot of stories individually on other Kirblogs, but you know, I went through quite a few things in even just my first year of college alone. You know, for the first year of college, I went through, you know, trying to fit in with the Newgrounds crowd and, you know, really wanting to leave an impact and getting swept up in all this parody stuff and everything and the popularity of that. I had to ascertain exactly who my friends were, who were the people that I could really trust, you know, what it is that I was in it for and you know, what I was motivated by and everything. Throughout all of college, I experienced 3 relationships. No, that's not true. My first girlfriend, then I broke up shortly before I finished high school and I started going to college. I dated 2 different people when I was going to college, and then I had another relationship after college. So that's half of my romantic life happened when I was in college. If you know, just to set that stage, you know, so that was a massive thing. And of course, you know, there was also the expected skirt chasing and you know, trying to look for somebody and ask people out, you know, at the interim between relationships, which happened as well. But you know, so that was a major eye opener, as you know, having to go through that. And then by the end of college, and you know, again doing my thesis film and really putting my all into doing that, and really, I guess not putting all my eggs in one basket, but I really tried to do something that was going to leave, you know, a lasting impact, you know, both on myself, you know, because I was using an IP that was really meaningful to me, you know, that being Balancing Act, and putting 110% effort into making it the absolute best I could make it, you know, with the span of time that I had and everything. All those experiences were incredibly profound and were some of the most lasting that I've had just in that span of 4 years. You know, when you go to college, you're already 18 years old, you know, feasibly, unless you're a super genius and going there earlier or otherwise. But that's a span of 4 years, and now it's been 8 since I went to college, and I've experienced, you know, a lot more shit than just that. I've been through a lot of emotional ups and downs, and I've seen a lot, you know, at least for my life. I mean, for my context, I'm not saying like I haven't been to war for Christ's sake, but I've definitely been through a lot of stuff for my own, you know, my 26 years of life at the time that I'm recording this. through different crowds that I rolled with, through witnessing other people's actions and sharing their experiences as well as having my own, I was really able to better ascertain by the time that I finished school what kind of person that I was. I really try, and I mean, a lot of people who know me like very, very personally, who have seen me kind of in my weaker moments. I'm a relatively sensitive person. I can be taken down a peg or two at a moment's notice, depending on what it is that stings me, I guess you could say. I really try to mean well, and I really other people also kind of know I jokingly refer to myself as a Boy Scout. I'm straight edge. I've basically never had any alcohol. I've never smoked anything. I've never done anything like that, etc. I just, what I'm in it for is just creating shit. That's basically what I live for, and having a platform, being able to do that. And I'm aware that I'm very lucky, and I've talked about this many, many, many times before too, but that I live in a current time period where I basically can just make whatever I want, and I can just do it, and it's there and it's out there. And I've been equally lucky to be able to make a living doing it, somewhat of a living doing it. But yeah, it can be difficult to find out who you are. I think most people start off as just like, or not even start off, just in general, most people I think try to be good. They try their absolute hardest to just be as much of a good person as humanly possible, and while still looking out for themselves and doing what it is that's going to make them happy. No human being is perfect. You're always going to have some kind of moment of weakness where you're gonna fuck up. You're gonna do something stupid. Or you're gonna do something maybe even intentionally bad if you for whatever circumstance, etc. But I really feel like those kind of experiences are also a key factor as to making us who we are. Because, say, for instance, I'm only speaking for myself because, as you said, person who asked this question, that, I'm not you and you're not me. That's a song, I think. But, I've learned a lot through the stupid shit that I've done. Because as much as I try to pride myself and cling to the fact that, like, I'm a good person, really, I try to do good, I try to make people happy, I try to entertain, and et cetera, and blah, blah, blah. I've learned some of the most important things in my life from also being a massive fuck up. And the times that I've massively fucked up in my life have helped to make me who I am. And it's interesting too, because I think I know this whole episode, I think I've said this before in a previous Kirblog, whatever, forgive me. I was pretty spoiled as a kid. My parents split up early on in my life, and they were wonderful to basically stay friends and not let what happened between them and them splitting up affect me, and it didn't. But as a result, I was separated and split between both, and I would come visit both various times, and they would both spoil me a lot because they both wanted to keep me happy throughout everything and make sure that everything was fine, which was incredibly commendable of them. But I had to learn a lot of important, I guess, disciplinary things about life on my own, and I'm proud of myself for that. And again, that's not to take any credit away. My parents are wonderful, and they've been incredibly supportive for everything I've ever wanted to do all my life. So that is not to take anything away from them whatsoever. But the fact of the matter was, I was a spoiled kid, and I had to teach myself a lot of things, just a lot of basic things about life. In fact, I'll even be honest, and I won't go into specifics, but there are basic human things, like just, because I'm an adult. I've lived out in California on my own for a full year now. It's like there's still basic things, like I think about, I have to do my taxes this year, and I'm just like, I'm shitting my pants already, like even just stuff like that. Or like, how do I send this through the post office again? I forget, I have to get this kind of stamp or this kind of whatever, like that type of thing. And then I even was joking with, I was having dinner with Ben Diskin and his girlfriend the other day, and I was joking about, I feel like such a goober when I have to like, all right, mom or dad, how do I do this again? I don't remember, But yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm getting off topic, but more or less, yeah, those things are incredibly important. And so I'm glad in some ways that I did, kind of become my own teacher in a lot of respects on, those incredibly important things. I formed my sense of right and wrong and my moral stability and everything, based off of a lot of those things that I had to teach myself, a lot of those things that I also did learn from other people by example. No, that's the other funny thing too. Learning by example, I think I've learned much more, weirdly enough, on, okay, don't do this, from knowing other people in my life who, aren't necessarily great people, or if they're not, I don't know. I've never met very many like legitimately bad people in my life, so not to get like too dramatic with that, but like people who I consider less than favorable, or who I have like a moral issue with, or just, they bother me for whatever reason. And there's not very many. I could probably count, truly the amount of people I've ever like actually met that fall into those categories on like maybe both my hands. And in a world full of gajillions of people, and I know a ton of them, I know hundreds upon hundreds of them, that's pretty good, I think, which that's another funny thing that I kind of got from Charlie Adler in that same interview, where he talked about, he's like, there's only maybe about 3 people in this town that I refuse to talk to, which is pretty incredible considering the entertainment business where there's so many egos flying around, which, yeah, it's pretty commendable. But anyway, yeah, so that's something that also left a lasting impact too, was just, seeing, okay, that person did a really shitty thing. Don't ever do that for any reason whatsoever. Just don't. To which then, if I ever come close, or I ever go in the range of like, oh no, I'm doing this and that or whatever, oh no, oh woe is me, I'm becoming like that person that I detest or whatever, and that's a pretty human thing as well. I mean, it sounds like such a like Saturday morning cartoon. Has like, oh, me and the bad guy, we have more in common than we think. Oh no, or whatever. But I mean, I don't mean it like that, but hopefully you get what I'm referring to. But yeah, I mean, all those things have been incredibly important and really instrumental to me having a sense of myself. Now, you can know yourself. You can know yourself as intimately as possible. You can really like have a full picture of the ins and outs of, your personality, of your motivation, of your drive, of your wants and needs, of your routines, of your, mannerisms and your weaknesses, your strengths, etc. You can have a full picture of all of that whatsoever. And it's good too, because, the more knowledge that you have, and the better fit you are for success in life. And not as in like, accomplishing your goals, but I mean just like, being known as a good person, having people who care about you, who, know you to be a good human being. And that's kind of the whole thing of it too. Something that I've also kind of learned, especially in recent years, you don't always necessarily get to determine what kind of person you are. Even if you know yourself, even if you pride yourself on being a good person or being good at what you do, or otherwise, anything to that extent, it's not up to you to determine that. You can't consider you can consider yourself as anything you want. I can consider myself a fucking rainbow unicorn that vomits happy juice. I'm so sorry, Matt. I've borrowed that joke from you 700 times by this point. The point is, I feel like it's the people that you leave an impact on of any kind that determine who you are in the long run. And the reason I say that, I know that sounds kind of ass backwards, because it's like, oh no, they don't know me or whatever. It's like, oh, they don't get to decide who I am. No, they don't. But I feel like that's a better judgment usually of, where you're at in life and where you are at in your development as a human being. Is, if you're known for being an asshole, or being fake, or being sexist, or being racist, or being just not all that pleasant to be around, that's that's probably a sign that you're not a very good person. Even if maybe you might be, I don't know. I think I always had this joke of like, I think even Family Guy did a joke about this. Some guy can be a total dickhole, but he gives money to charity. He can know that he's a good person on the inside, and maybe other people won't necessarily know that he does that good thing, And then that's a whole other subject of like, if you do good things, for other people, good deeds, as it were, without other people knowing, And then because you're not looking for a cookie, you're not looking to get, noticed or get attention for, how great you are or whatever. But that's the other thing that all makes us as individuals is we all have our own kind of definition of what is good and bad and what is right and wrong. Tying it back to the question in terms of like writing stories, currently, without going into too many details, I'm writing a story that's basically about a character who is a good person and who is genuinely trying to do things for the benefit of others, and putting others before themselves, but at the same time is unsure of if the path that they're following to do those supposedly good things is benefiting everybody, and if it's truly the right thing to do in the first place, as in, are there ramifications that are affecting other things or other people negatively, that are out of that person's control, or, maybe even are within that person's control and they just don't know what it is that they're doing, and they might be misguided, or they might just, not have enough life experiences or enough to know what is right and what is wrong and what's good and bad and fair, to everybody, and fair to themselves, because, yourself, whoever, to anybody listening to this, that is important. And in some ways you do have to think of yourself more so than anybody else for the sake of your own livelihood, because then it can potentially turn into an unhealthy existence, and that's a whole nother subject in and of itself. But the point is, all of that stuff is, everything I've just talked about is all a factor, and there's more. Every single bit of that goes deeper and deeper, but from a general sense, that is not everything. It's a lot. It's a lot of what all goes into, you finding out who you are, you owning who you are, and eventually other people being able to ascertain really who you are. I think that there's definitely a good mix of both in terms of your own determination of yourself, and then knowing yourself, and other people's determination. Yes, there are definitely gray areas, like I was joking about the Ebenezer Scrooge type character or whatever. But yeah, I think that's I hope that's at least a start to you and to anybody else who might be wondering about that. I know, again, probably a lot of younger folks listen to these, and the other thing is, I guess, the last little bit to take away from, don't feel like you have to know absolutely everything about yourself right away, because midlife crises happen for a reason. People discover completely new, incredible, world-changing, life-changing things about themselves so far into their lives, unexpectedly sometimes. Tomorrow I might get, not to kind of sound so grim with this, I could get into a car accident tomorrow and not be able to speak, or not be able to see, or not be able to whatever, and then I won't be, my life would take a complete shift, and I hope that doesn't happen. I'm not setting myself up for, a car crash today happened in California, fucking at the moment that this video goes up, watch that happen. God, no, life always finds a way. I'll be okay. Don't you worry about me, everybody in the comments. The point is, that things can happen, anything, not even as extreme as that, but and when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, and then you drink the lemonade, and it's delicious, and hopefully you don't have any cold sores, because that shit hurts. Great. Now that I've thrown this, subject in the dumpster, in the comments below, I'm curious about, to those of you who do and don't know yourselves, leave me your thoughts. If you feel you do, how did you get to where you are? How did you get to knowing yourself, and what kind of experiences that you're comfortable with sharing led you to that type of knowledge? And to the people who don't know themselves, what is it that you're trying to search for, and what is it that you want to get to, that you want to aspire to? Not your dreams, but just the type of person that you want to be. What it is that you want out of life on a grander scale. Let me know in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious. And if you have future suggestions for Kirblog topics, leave a comment about that too, or hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you feel like. And that'll do it. I hope this was a particularly enlightening one for anybody at all, and I wasn't just rambling nonsense for 20 minutes. But thanks as always for listening, and I will catch you all next time. Bye-bye.